Trying to make a change, if you go just gung-ho and no throttling in of your energy, you get burned out. If you pace yourself with journaling, if you pace yourself with a 3-month change, and know where you're going, know when you're going to increase your activities, and know when the end point is, then I think your success rate is better. So, 3 months. Guess how long it usually takes to fail after a New Year's Eve resolution? Yeah, usually 3 weeks, everybody's back to saying, I'll wait till next year. So the inspiration dies down fast, but you know that most of us, January 1st, January 2nd, especially if we're on vacation, you know that I want to make some changes. You're seeing the commercials on TV, you're seeing all the products that are on sale, you want to do something, and you're hyped up. I think if you can bottle that and then reproduce it over the course of 3 months, you'll have a higher success rate. A diet out of California, you take a human growth hormone, you would lower your caloric intake to about 500 to 800 calories per day. And most of you have just eaten about 250 calories. So you get 500 per day, you get this hormone, and you supposedly just float on that. And you will lose weight, but you also go into something called a ketosis. It's when your body thinks you're starving. It works, but is it sustainable? No. And number two, it's also dangerous too. If you're a diabetic, you go into ketosis, coma. So there are fad diets out there, but you have to be realistic. And that's what maybe the doctor's for, or a personal trainer is for, or an exercise physiologist is for. Even a counselor. I think counseling is very important too. For those of you who haven't been to a counselor, I think our counselors, our psychologists are very good with helping design a relaxation program. Remember, I mentioned in the beginning, the 3 legs of being stable in a lifestyle change is thinking, relaxation practice, eating, nutrition, and activity, some form of movement. This is the journey that I put everybody on. It's 3 months. Each block, the jump start is probably the easiest because if it's 3 months, you have the enthusiasm, you hopefully have the weather, like now, springtime, and you'll have the guidance. After you make it past the first 3 months, then there's this thing called a float phase I come up with. And I think the float phase is where if you just maintain what you're doing the first 3 months, maybe just fine-tune it a little bit, you get through the next 3 months. That's 6 months you would have made it. And usually in Chicago, if you start in the spring, you still have great weather. Change around your activity, add more activity. And then you summit. So once you make it past the 6-month mark, you just beat the majority of Americans as far as sustainable change. At that point, you can redo your focus and then figure out the next summit for the season. I usually like to tell everybody not to hibernate, but to kind of just take it down a little notch for the winter and just don't get hurt. Maintain it until springtime again. At that point in time, you refocus on the new summit. I think that's where the benefit of electronic recording is very good, because if you can if you hit a plateau phase, or if you're making the 3-month change and suddenly it's like, what happened? I'm not getting to my goal. You kind of pull out, I don't know if the Fitbit has a logarithm that it prints up for you, but you can pull it out, kind of go back to when you were really doing 10,000 a day and when did it fall off, and then try to relate that to a stressor or a change in life. So it's nice, again, it's nice to journal. I think they're running about $100 now, but I think it's worth it, but I would always say it's also important to have eyes on. If you have somebody if you're hitting the plateau, if you've made your change, shot for 3 months and you can't get to that point, have somebody, I would invest in somebody to say, maybe come up with something, figure out why I didn't make it, or come up with something new for me so I can make it next time. And if it's a good person, they'll be able to kind of assess what your loves are, where you might have failed, look at your Fitbit data, and then come up with a couple of things outside the box that you might not have thought about before. That could be a personal trainer, exercise physiologist, psychologist, yoga therapy doctor, yoga therapist, or your doctor. So and if you're going to make a lifestyle change and you want to make it last, call on everybody. Get everybody involved, and your chances for sustainability will be higher. For me, the 3 legs of living an anti-inflammatory lifestyle are thinking, eating, activity. If you live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, then if you unfortunately are going to be getting cancer, you'll be able to fight it stronger. If you're going to have a heart attack, you'll come out of it faster. If you're going to get diabetes, you'll be able to reverse it quicker. I do think that we have a miracle here that we unfortunately will brutalize over 50 to 60 years. And I think that there's ways to have the body work a little better, like it did when we were in our 20s. Oh wait, you're probably in your 20s now, right? That's cool. Because if you're doing the right things, if you're doing the right things now, then you will have a better 30, 40, 50. But if you do the wrong things now, then you're stepping into a lifetime of problems. Whoever's 50 years of age in here or older will know that the diseases that we have at 50 will not be the same as the diseases that our kids had, because the food industry is a little bit different. And then my mom and dad, the diseases they had, because again, the food industry was different, the stress was different, we're presenting with disease earlier, and that's why it's real important to set the standard straight when you're in your 20s. We're having heart attacks now in college. So all the diabetes that we kind of just let go and watch in 2000, the millennium, 10 years, right? 10 years it takes to have a pre-diabetic turn into we have just an abundance of diabetes now. And that's why Jewel Oscar down the street is giving free lectures on insulin, because they need people to learn. I mean, they probably want you to buy their stuff, which is fine, but they need people to learn so that they can reverse all this